Imagine paying $15,000 for a plane ticket, expecting to be treated like royalty, completely unaware that the airline secretly wishes you weren't there. You are sitting in a seat that weighs over 600 pounds. It is packed with heavy motors, privacy doors, and reinforced steel, dragging that massive 600-pound throne across the Atlantic Ocean burns a staggering amount of jet fuel. In fact, according to the World Bank and the International Council on Clean Transportation, your carbon footprint in that first-class suite is up to 9 times higher than the passenger sitting in the back of the plane. You might feel like the airline's most valuable customer, but to the modern, data-driven airline industry, your massive seat is a geometric nightmare, an environmental liability, and a threat to their profit margins. International first class is dying, and it is not because people stopped having money. It is dying because of a ruthless triumph of aerospace engineering, artificial intelligence, and basic geometry. To understand why airlines are deliberately killing off their most famous luxury product, we have to go back to the year 2000. That was the year British Airways introduced the Club World seat. It was the world's first fully flat bed in business class. Before this, business class was just a wider recliner. If you wanted to actually sleep horizontally on a flight to London, you had to buy a first-class ticket. British Airways changed the rules of the game, and in doing so, they accidentally lit the fuse that would eventually destroy first class. Once business class passengers could lie flat, the gap between business and first began to shrink. The final blow came in March 2017 at the ITB Berlin Travel Trade Show, when Qatar Airways unveiled the Qsuite. It was a business-class product with sliding privacy doors, direct aisle access for every passenger, and the ability to combine seats into a 4-person flying boardroom. It was so good that it completely cannibalized the first-class market. Airlines looked at their own planes and realized a terrifying truth. They had made business class so luxurious that they could no longer justify charging $10,000 more for first class. The soft product, the champagne, the caviar, the bedding was no longer enough to convince rational buyers to upgrade. But the demise of first class is not just about business class getting better. It is about the literal shape of the airplanes we fly on today. We are living in the post-jumbo jet era. In December 2021, Airbus delivered its final A380 Super Jumbo to Emirates. In January 2023, Boeing delivered its final 747, a freighter, to Atlas Air. The era of the massive 4-engine double-decker is over, replaced by highly efficient twin-engine jets like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and the Airbus A350. This shift completely broke the geometry of first class. The internal cabin width of an A380 main deck is 21 feet and 5 inches. That massive footprint allowed airlines to install sprawling 111 first-class configurations with enclosed suites, separate beds, and even onboard showers. But the Boeing 787 has an internal cabin width of only 18 feet. You physically cannot fit those ultra-luxury first-class suites into a 787 without creating a geometrically inefficient nightmare. The real estate is simply too narrow. And in the airline business, real estate is everything. Every square inch of the cabin floor is calculated for maximum revenue. When airlines looked at the math, they discovered a secret cash cow that made first class look like a terrible investment. That cash cow is premium economy. Lufthansa, one of the most data-driven airlines in the world, has publicly revealed the math behind their cabins. According to their data, premium economy generates 33% more revenue per square foot than standard economy. Even more shockingly, premium economy is 6% more profitable than business class. Let that sink in. A slightly wider seat with a few extra inches of legroom and a better meal is the most profitable piece of real estate on the entire aircraft. Now, put yourself in the shoes of an airline executive. You have a limited amount of floor space on a new Boeing 787. Do you install a massive 600-pound first-class suite that might fly empty, burns excess fuel, and takes up the space of 6 regular seats? Or do you rip out first class entirely and fill that space with highly profitable premium economy seats that sell out on every single flight? The math is undeniable. But what about the weight? We rarely think about the literal weight of the furniture on an airplane, but aerospace engineers obsess over it. A standard economy class seat weighs roughly 25 to 30 pounds. A modern business class suite weighs around 250 pounds, but an ultra-luxury first-class suite can weigh well over 600 pounds. Carrying that dead weight on a 14-hour flight requires burning a massive amount of jet fuel. If a first-class seat flies empty, it is not just a missed opportunity for revenue. It is an active, bleeding cost. The airline is paying thousands of dollars in fuel just to fly an empty, heavy chair across the ocean. Historically, airlines tried to solve this empty seat problem by using first class as a dumping ground for frequent flyer miles. If they couldn't sell the seat for cash, they would let a loyal customer upgrade using points. It kept the cabin full and rewarded loyalty. But airlines hate liabilities, and they have gotten incredibly smart. Today, airlines use sophisticated, AI-driven dynamic pricing and revenue management software. These algorithms are incredibly good at predicting exactly how much a customer is willing to pay for a business class seat at any given moment, because they can now reliably sell out their business class cabins for cold, hard cash. They no longer need a massive first-class cabin to absorb excess upgrade inventory. The frequent flyer loophole has been closed by artificial intelligence. At the same time, the corporate world turned its back on first class. For decades, the backbone of international first class was the corporate executive, flying on the company dime. But today, corporate travel policies are strictly governed by ESG, environmental, social, and governance goals. Remember that statistic from the World Bank and the ICCT? A first-class passenger has a carbon footprint up to 9 times higher than an economy passenger. Publicly traded companies can no longer justify the optics or the carbon accounting of flying their executives in first class. Almost every major corporate travel policy today caps executive travel at business class. So, where did the ultra-wealthy go? The people who actually have the money to pay cash for first class without a corporate travel department telling them no? They left commercial aviation entirely. The pandemic permanently changed the travel habits of the 1%. According to August International, private aviation flight activity in 2022 was 15% higher than it was in 2019. Before the pandemic, the people who used to buy international first-class tickets realized that for a little more money, they could charter a private jet, skip the commercial terminal entirely, and fly on their own schedule. Faced with this reality, airlines had to adapt. They realized they could still sell the feeling of first class without actually dedicating a separate cabin to it. This led to the unbundling of the first-class soft product. Ground experiences like skipping security lines, private terminal access, and exclusive dining used to be strictly reserved for first-class passengers. Today, airlines have built massive, exclusive lounges just for business class. Delta Airlines has the Delta One lounges. United Airlines has the United Polaris lounges. By giving business class passengers a private, restaurant-quality experience on the ground, they neutralized one of the last remaining advantages of buying a first-class ticket. They also invented something the industry calls Business Plus, or the front row phenomenon. Because of the physical geometry of modern aircraft, the very first row of a business class cabin often has extra space due to the bulkhead wall. Instead of letting that space go to waste, airlines are turning it into a pseudo-first class. Virgin Atlantic created the Retreat Suite. JetBlue created the Mint Studio. Condor did the same thing. They take that bulkhead row, add extra legroom, install a companion seat so 2 people can dine face-to-face, put in a massive television, and charge a premium for it. This allows the airline to offer a first-class flight experience without having to dedicate a separate cabin, a separate galley, or a separate flight attendant crew to it. It is incredibly efficient. The writing is on the wall, and the biggest players in the industry are making their moves. In September 2022, American Airlines officially announced it would phase out its flagship first product in favor of new flagship suite business class seats. With that decision, United States carriers became entirely devoid of international first class. It is completely extinct among the big 3 U.S. airlines. But what about the international carriers that refuse to let first class die? Airlines like Air France, Lufthansa, and Qantas, they're keeping first class, but they are fundamentally changing the economic model by shrinking it to microscopic levels. They are pivoting to hyper-exclusivity. Air France's legendary La Premiere cabin on their Boeing 777-300ERs features exactly 4 seats. Lufthansa is introducing a brand new first-class product called Allegris, but instead of a massive, sprawling cabin, it will feature only 3 to 4 seats per aircraft. Qantas is doing the exact same thing for its highly anticipated Project Sunrise. The Airbus A350 is designed to fly non-stop from Sydney to London and New York. Those planes will feature just 6 first-class seats. By shrinking the supply down to just 3, 4, or 6 seats, these airlines are creating artificial scarcity. They are ensuring that the load factor remains at 100% with passengers who are actually paying cash, rather than people upgrading with miles. It creates a halo effect for the airline's brand without destroying the profit margins of the specific flight. The death of first class is not a tragedy of lost luxury. It is a masterclass in modern business. It is the triumph of data-driven revenue management and aerospace weight reduction over pure vanity. Airlines finally woke up and realized that selling a slightly smaller business class suite for $5,000, combined with a highly profitable premium economy cabin, yields vastly more revenue per square foot than they ever made before. And more importantly, it burns significantly less fuel than dragging a 600-pound, empty first class thrown across the sky. The golden age of first class isn't over because we stopped caring about luxury. It's over because the math simply demanded it.